The burnout, animal welfare, frontline people is very, very high. Like that's our main problem is burnout. The average time, according to the Census Bureau, people stay in the industry is 2 years because it's hard. It's really hard work. The life of the dog, if you're in behavior work, can depend on your skill and the owners too. We decided as a group of February of 2023 to create a nonprofit that exists for the mental health of canine professionals. You just have to be force-free. So no shock collars, no harsh treatments. Nothing had ever been around for us. ECPR and all of my growth has enabled me to put down the wall, but in safe company.
Hey everybody, how are you doing? I just want to say welcome to Kim's Coffee House Chat. I am Kim Ewing. I am the Director of Training and Engagement at the National Empowerment Center. And I am just so honored to be able to chat with Annie Phenix. And I'm going to let Annie tell you a little bit about her. And you're in for a treat. So this is going to be a great coffee house chat. And, I don't know what you're drinking. Maybe you're drinking a little water. Maybe you're drinking a little coffee. There we go. Tea, whatever it is. Hope you can just take a minute and dive into this beautiful exchange. Annie!
Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this so often. So I'm very thrilled to be here.
I'm so glad to see you. Thank you so much for just receiving this invitation. I'm just excited about our conversation and what we're going to be talking about today. But before we dive in deep, can you tell everybody who you are, what you do, where you reside, and anything else you would love for us to know?
We live in Utah. By we, I mean me and my husband and my 2 dogs. Dogs are kind of a theme because I am a professional dog trainer and I have been for, I don't know, a while, more than 20 years. And I came out of foster work before that. And my very patient husband, who had no animals before we got married almost 25 years ago, helped me foster 400 dogs when we had a ranch in Texas, over 10 years. I finally had to quit because burnout is so high in both professions. And that's how we came to know each other, through the high burnout rate in the dog training industry. But I ran out of names for puppies because we would take whole litters of puppies from rural shelters back in the 2000s when it was really bad in Texas. It's still bad. And I ran out of names. I had named every possible thing I could think of. And I was just tired. So then I moved into training. I've been a journalist my whole life. My father had newspapers and around Austin, little weekly newspapers. So I've been writing since I was 15 and training dogs, just in love with dogs. I took a few turns, like I was a publicist for books and worked in politics, which is also a crazy, don't get into politics. I don't advise it at this point. As a result, I wrote 2 books. This one I wrote in 2015. They both have German Shepherds. I've had a lot of German Shepherds. Not saying anything bad about German Shepherds. It's my favorite breed, but they can have behavior issues because they've been bred into it. This one is more memoir and kind of story of my rescue. And this is my new one that came out last year. And it's a training manual for owners, more than trainers, because some trainers write for trainers and some trainers write for owners. I write for owners, and I interviewed 17 world-class experts.
Wow.
And they're in each chapter. Some chapters have 2. And there's a paradigm shift finally happening in the dog training industry where we're talking about the welfare of the dog. That has not been the case. It has been science, 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 and behaviorism, and behavior is lawful, and we have emotional laws that we have to follow it, and not seeing the dog. To me, it's very similar to what happens in at-risk youth and psychology for children. That is, and particularly like on the spectrum, that they've been so horribly treated in psychology, and psychology has treated a lot of people, I think, particularly behaviorism, and that's kind of where the dog training is. We're behind the training world for helping children, but we're catching up, and that's why I think this book is a #1 bestseller in the training category and has been for almost 2 years, which I'm thrilled about because I want to reach owners, and there's just not enough positive reinforcement help. Like every other page says, don't hurt your dog, don't hurt your dog, don't hurt your dog. And you don't have to, no matter what the dog is doing, growling, biting. I work with all of that. Also, founder with 25 other trainers of an international nonprofit called the Phoenix Advocacy Center for Canine Professionals. And that's how Kim and I came to know each other, because we're a new organization, but we've all been in the industry and survived it. Like, I left for 5 years because I was burnt out. The burnout in welfare, animal welfare, frontline people is very, very high. Like, that's our main problem, is burnout. The average time, according to the Census Bureau, people stay in the industry is 2 years, because it's hard.
Wow.
It's really hard work. The life of the dog, if you're in behavior work, can depend on your skill, and the owners too. So we decided as a group of February of 2023 to create a nonprofit that exists for the mental health of canine professionals, dog walkers, trainers. You don't have to, you can be retired. You just have to be force free. So no shock collars, no harsh treatments, because that's a huge division in the industry, and owners may not be aware of that, but nothing had ever been around for us. Like, teachers have associations, doctors have medical associations, even Screenwriters Guild, that look out for their members. And we never had that. And it's like, why? Why do we not support each other? It's a very tribal, can be, and I think toxic. It really resembles even the force-free side resembles the toxic family in far too many ways that I'm far too familiar with because of my family. So we started the Advocacy Center last year, and we wanted training for our members. And we're very much based on a group called NAMBI, Not One More Vet, because veterinarians have a high suicide rate, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's a very, very difficult job. Just ours is more burnout than that we know of. So we met with them. We based our structure on them. We have a free members group on Facebook, a support group, and we had to learn a whole new language for us as the moderators and the founders of the group. Like, I did not know what empathetic listening was a year ago. I mean, I'd heard of it, but I didn't really know what it was. Certainly, I had not heard of eCPR. I wish that I had heard of it whenever you guys started it. I don't know if it's 10 years ago or I don't know how long it's been out there, but it was the things that I were taught
We
in
founded it in 2009.
2009.
And for those of you who are watching for the first time, Annie's talking about emotional CPR.
Yeah.
And we call it eCPR for short. So you'll probably hear that
Yeah.
quite a bit through our interview and chat together. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, that's how I found eCPR. So we did some training that Not One More Vets did, but I felt we had a whole training committee, and we started looking at all these programs for our moderators. We have 10 moderators, and I felt like we needed them to be trained in not solving the problem. That's what trainers do. You hire us to solve the problem. We're very good at that. It's been a mind shift and a huge growth factor for me. And I'm almost 60, and I've studied trauma because I do come from a traumatic family, as so many do, and toxic family of origin. I thought I knew a lot. And our job is to be good listeners to dog owners and really hear what they're experiencing and the frustration they're experiencing, and then you pay us to solve it. And so for us to turn that table on ourselves and say, we're not going to solve our colleagues' problems. We're not therapists. That's not what we're here for. We're here for peer-to-peer support. That's what our group is. So we needed the training. We looked at so many, and our volunteers were going to pay for it themselves. And, that's asking people to do a lot that already aren't making a lot of money. I think the median.
And can you give an idea before you go further about how big your group is?
Yeah. We started a year ago, and we're almost at 1,000 members, and it's international. So like, each trainer they represent thousands and thousands of dog owners. I've worked with thousands of owners over 25 years. And we're careful who we let in, because there is so much fighting in tribal, and we call them mean girls. There's a lot of mean keyboard boys and girls, but most dog trainers are women, predominantly. Yeah. And there's been a whole lot of fighting on our side, the force-free side, which we're supposed to be the nice ones. And it can be brutal, and people quit. They just leave. I left for 5 years, and I was real happy too. I was gone. I had hobbies. I cooked. I spent all the time with my own dogs. It was a trauma. It's traumatic when you hear the stories of what the dogs are going.
Sounds like you took a sabbatical in the higher ed world, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I wasn't coming back. I was done. But
so you weren't taking a sabbatical.
I was happy.
You're gonna go.
No, goodbye.
You were like, take this job, and you know what?
And then the
Man.
publisher contacted me and asked me to write in 2021, and I almost didn't write it. And if I hadn't written this book, because I interviewed my colleagues and
Mm,
we formed such bonds, because also it was COVID. So most trainers had switched to Zoom like we're doing now. And I
yeah.
talked to more trainers in 2021 than I had in 25 years of working. And they were all said the same thing. They felt isolated, they felt
Mm,
lonely, they felt the industry was toxic, at least if you were only online. And we stopped having the
mm,
conventions where you could meet people in person for 3 or 4 years. They're only just now coming back, and most people don't can't travel or don't want to travel, and I don't blame them. So many of our conventions and get-togethers aren't in person anymore. So those Zoom meetings that I had opened my world up to how incredibly wonderful the community is. You just don't see that side on Facebook. You see the fighting.
yeah.
And so many dog owner trainers were contacting me because I would do a lot of Facebook Lives with an Irish colleague. We'd interview people for the book and for
Hmm.
just interesting dog people, dog trainers mostly. And people were contacting me when the latest blow up on social media would happen. And it was devastating to them because it's such a tricky industry, and who's really force free and who's going to hurt a dog in training and who isn't. I mean, you have to have a master's degree in people to understand, and people are let down. And who do you trust, basically? And so I said to 25, I said to my dog group on Facebook, it's called the Midnight Dog Walkers, and that is open to owners as well. It's a private Facebook group. I said, are there trainers who want to help me support a support group, start a support group for canine professionals, because it doesn't exist. We never talk about mental health. And even
Mm,
though it's a blaring issue, and I myself had burnout, there's no support for it. They don't talk about it at conferences, maybe one webinar, but they don't, like, we need to be talking to people like you who help people every day with serious, serious life issues, not just burnout. It's not just work related, it's life issues, who are outside of our profession, because we're not doing it. We're not trained to
mhm.
help ourselves at all. And we got
Yeah.
lost. And so I found emotional CPR. I think I did, actually. And then I had the opportunity to meet with you and one of our board members
Hmm.
last May. I think it was almost a year.
Has it been almost a year? That's
That's crazy.
amazing.
Yeah.
Time passes fast.
And we were blown away because,
Wow.
like, when you hear emotional CPR, you're like, what is that? Sounds interesting. That's an interesting name. And
Hmm.
God knows we all need help. Mankind needs so much help right now. But I didn't know how earth shattering it would be for me, and several of our moderators have taken it. I took it in April, and I got lucky, and you were the lead trainer. Although part of me was like, this just must be Kim Ewing. She just is one of those one in a million human beings. And you are, for sure. But your trainers, all of the trainers, are this. I'm like, this can't be replicated. This is Kim. She's magic in a bottle. And you are, for sure you
Well,
are.
thank you for that. And you're right. We've got some amazing trainers. And I know some of your people had different trainers as well. I think you also connected with our Canadian trainers because we're global. We're all over the world. And I'm really glad they got to experience other trainers so they can see that, yes, you're going to have, we're all different as far as personalities, but the fidelity is there. Because I know
Yeah.
you all then talked about it like, oh, right. Yeah, we did
Yeah.
this. Right.
It's amazing. So it's in the dog training world. Somebody says we're based on science, right? We're the science
Yeah.
ones, and so people say, is the study peer reviewed? Can it be repeated? Can this
Hmm.
science experience be
Hmm.
repeated? And that's one thing that I found going through it. What you guys have learned, it is shareable not only to us as people in the course, but as the trainers. Like,
Yes.
all of them just blew me away.
Hmm.
I'm pretty young, like
Yeah.
young, like under 30 to me, they seem young.
Yeah. Just the amount of time, like I said, we were founded in 2009 by people with lived experience and become evidence based and just a beautiful journey of this beautiful practice where we literally train people to support those who are going through a crisis or trauma or just having a bad day. I want to ask you a question, and I want to circle back around to the beginning a little bit because you've got such a full, colorful life, and I just love it. It's just you're just so talented in so many areas. But what I see you very passionate about are dogs and training dogs and that for you to be able to foster 400, did you say dogs? Oh,
Yeah.
gosh, can't even. And you shared with me that this is hard. This isn't like easy work. The work that you're absolutely passionate about, it can be very hard. And then as a result, you talked about the environment being very toxic.
Mhm.
What's going on there and why?
That's a great question and could be another book. I feel like written by a social worker,
Mm,
somebody with more degrees than I have. One thing we've discovered in our the advocacy group, because we have been bringing in outsiders who aren't dog trainers, they're
yeah.
healers in other professions because it's so desperately needed. And we've learned a lot, even though I learned that dog trainers are not studied as a profession. Like I
Mm,
asked the veterinarians, how did you guys know that you had a high suicide rate? I mean, this is real talk. It's hard to talk
mhm,
about that, but that's
right.
what not one more vet started because they were exhausted and sick of their colleagues committing suicide. And the veterinarian looked me in the face. This was over Zoom before we started, and she said, "We don't know about trainers because you're not a real profession." Because we don't have standards, we don't have licenses. Anyone can be a dog trainer, and that's part of the trauma in it. So we are not studied. We're begging universities to please study us, but then do you study the people who will shock a dog versus those of us who won't shock a
Mm,
dog? Like, because there's no standard. There are in other
mm,
countries, but not in this
mm,
country. And I don't know that there will be in my lifetime. So it's buyer beware for dog owners. So one reason we've discovered just talking in our group and bringing in these professionals that have helped us so much, helped us heal, beginning the healing process since last year. It reminds a lot of us get into dogs and feel so passionately about dogs or horses or animals
mm,
because oftentimes, and it was for me, I say that that was our first look at love when we were growing up.
mm.
And my dog was a dog named Cricket who adopted us. This was back in the 70s when dogs had a lot different lives and we lived out in the country. He
Mhm.
jumped our 6 foot fence every day and would
Yeah.
follow my school bus to school. And he was the only thing that I felt I loved or showed
Mm,
me love as a young girl growing up. And so I bonded really hard with animals. And a lot of dog trainers, there's a trauma all over the world. And I really think a lot of particularly female dog trainers see that love in another sentient being and feel it. And then we
yeah.
become protective. And then you become protective. And then you get into the training aspect, and it's like, well, the dog is growling and barking at you because you hit it in the face when it said it
Mhm.
was uncomfortable, or you sprayed water at its face, or you punished it. And
Mhm.
that's the old diagram of how they dealt with children in
Yeah.
psychology for far too long. You're just a bad kid. You're
Yeah.
you have a defiant personality and putting labels on him.
Mm,
And instead of saying, what does the kid need? What does this kid, how does this kid's brain work? And is his body racked
mhm.
from trauma? And so we have to calm down the nervous system first. And so call as a practitioner on a Friday night at 6 p.m. saying, if you don't call me tonight, I'm putting my dog down. If you don't learn how to balance that, then that's what happens to veterinarians as well. Or they're accused of just being in it for the money. I'm like, do you know how much debt a veterinarian has and how little money they make? They have to pay
Mhm.
for medical school, which we don't. Like I said, anyone can become a dog trainer. So we are kind of discovering on our own that it's that hamster wheel of trauma,
Mhm.
but you get some healing. I've always felt that that's why I fostered 400 dogs. I feel like that's the level of healing I needed and then some, because you meet the good humans that are not dumping the dogs, that are not harming
Mhm.
the dogs. Because I worked with Austin Dog Rescue years ago when it first started. This is in the 1990s to about 2010. We found homes for every single dog. We were very careful. We were temperament only, temperament and health
Mhm.
versus breed. I love
Hmm.
German Shepherds, and so we pulled almost every German, and I love herding dogs, but still, we were trying to find those family dogs. And it was easier then because we have polluted the gene pool mankind has with dogs, puppy mills and everything else. So their dogs are a lot more troubled now than they were
Hmm.
then, like serious bite issues. Bite issues are doubling in I know in the UK, and here too. I mean, it's just dogs are in a
Wow.
state of crisis, I feel like, and they reflect us. And I think we are
Hmm.
all in a state of crisis. So I don't know if I answered your question, except that I think it speaks to us that that one animal showed us love as young girls, mostly and boys, and then we become very protective of it, and then we get into the actual training if you're really a student of it versus
Right.
just shingle out, and it's like I can make a difference.
Because you brought up some memories of me when I was a child of watching people train their dog, right? The water bottle thing, as soon as they potty in the house, taking that nose, put them down and getting the paper and then throwing them outside. I mean, I saw all of that. So I can see that now that you're sharing that. So you bring that childhood love in, and here's what we've learned. This is what's right.
And I actually went through a grief period. So when I first started this a year ago, and I'm the front person, but there are 25 other
Mm-hmm.
people, and they took the course. They're taking the courses, and they have learned a new way of communicating with our colleagues online. And it, it's been remarkable. The Facebook has been so healing. We're finding that we're modeling the language of not solving it, of being present, which is so crucial in ECPR,
Mm-hmm.
online, which is a harder space. And that's where a lot of the injury has been done because it can be tribal. Somebody, you say something wrong, and all that trainer's famous person's their fans come to your page, and next
Mm-hmm.
thing you know, like people don't put anything on social media. They don't write up, write up a case study. They just shrink. But if you're not meeting the dog's needs, let's say you get a terrier and he is digging up everything in your yard because he smells the mice and all the little creatures. Well, we
Mm-hmm.
bred the dog to do that. And so now you're
Mm-hmm.
mad at a dog for doing what we bred it to do, or the herding dog that chases the children and bites their heels. I have healers.
Mm-hmm. It's a
That's how
hurt.
they,
Yeah, it's a hurting dog. Yeah.
yeah. And then you punish it, then you are telling that animal to not be a dog. And so then, and that's what happens to women and people of color and people of disability. I mean, it's anyone who isn't the standard is told don't be
Mm-hmm.
yourself. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that to me is one of the most toxic things. Was it Carl Jung that said the gift of the true gift of being alive is to be able to be who you really are, to exist in your own skin as you really are. That translates to dogs to me. They are punished or can be by our hierarchical society when they bark or bite and say, don't do
Mm-hmm.
that to me. You're
Yeah.
hurting me. So COVID 2020, just me and Jeff. We have no children. Nobody comes to our front door. We live in a very quiet neighborhood, so there's not a stranger in my house. If
Yeah.
he trained himself to cough or to walk heavy, because I work in the back of the house, we have a long hallway, or to say, I'm opening the door now, because neither of us kind of realized that if he opened the door, I would jump. That's a
Right.
startle reflex. That's a body keeps the score. And I finally, during COVID, it got worse because he came home. He would go to work every day. And so he would come around
Mm.
the corner and I would jump and scream. And I'd be like, I know it's him. Intellectually, of course it's him. But
That's
the
that
body,
lizard brain piece
yes.
that you were telling me about my dog.
Yeah.
That you were like, if I move and I work late and they're gone to bed and he's in the bed and then I move and he goes, Arr! He's
He,
barking.
he, he
That's what
responds.
you were talking about, right?
He responds. His body responds danger
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
respond, and that's can save your life.
So
Few other.
you were able to learn more about how to support yourself, which to me, we call that in the emotional CPR world, taking care of self is me CPR,
Yeah.
right? What is it I need to do that's just for me? How to, and also, we also talk about, when if you ever fly, and what is the first thing the flight attendant does when they're reviewing, what you need to know. If you lose oxygen or things of that nature, that mask comes down, put on yourself first, and then you can support and help that person next to you.
Oh,
So it sounds like to me that people, your peers, we're all coming with something.
Yeah.
We're all coming with the story. We're all coming with our um, version of trauma,
Yes.
and then and then now I'm working with you, and it's already not a very supportive community because, like you said, you're not being recognized.
It's like social work to me. And there are now
Yeah.
veterinary social workers, and there need to be a whole lot more of them. It is very much like that because you have to convince the person to stop harming their dog because they're so frustrated, you know.
Right.
And we were all taught that hierarchical, I'm the boss.
Yeah.
And I say where there's vulnerable population, predators appear. And so there
Mm.
can be true predators. Not everyone does love their dog.
I
And
know.
we're educating our colleagues about that as well. We talk about ECPR like on a lot of our lives because so many of our members have gone through it and share the link all the time and to join. And like I said, several of our have gone through it, and we want dog training schools to hold this because
Mhm.
what it does is it provides a way to be emotionally present in a very short amount of time. Like it's a 2 day course,
Mhm.
and how you teach that in 2 days. I said with our course, I said it's like you're teaching us a foreign language Thursday morning, and by Thursday afternoon you're using it. And you didn't know you had the skills, but we did have it. I think it's one of those forgotten things. We do know we
Mhm.
do have it, and technology has made us be too separate, you know, from community. It's that community
Mm.
that you guys provide, and it just kind of it breaks down barriers. Like when because I went last in our group, and I was writing down, listening to other people. What the hell am I going to talk about? I don't really have any tragedies in my life currently. Yeah, the big one. And of course I did.
And for our listeners, we do a training where, we kind of talk about what emotional CPR is, right? And one of it is that C and that P and that R, and C standing for connection. We took a little liberty with the C, sorry. So C and the P, we took a little liberty with that, and we call that empowerment. And then the next one is called revitalization. So we really
Yeah.
talk about that, about this is how to be able to connect with another person, and for that you and that person also to experience empowerment together, and also to experience revitalization. And then what we do is give you an invitation of what Annie's talking about, to do a real play. And that real play requires you to be able to share something
Yeah.
that maybe you've experienced, that maybe it's even a bad day. It doesn't always be a crisis or a trauma, right? Something that you need support in. And then let's say if I'm the person also taking training, I will support Annie to practice in a very courageous, we try to create a very courageous and a brave space for people to learn it a little bit, right? Before you go. You had to think about, well, what am I going to share?
I don't
Didn't
have
really think of
kids.
anything.
Yeah. A lot of people had kids or parents, like parents with dementia and senior
Mm-hmm.
aging parents or adult kids moving back in. Like I don't have that because I don't have kids and both of my
Yeah.
parents are deceased. Well, it's just it's so hard to explain. I'm glad you can explain it much better than I can, even though I've been through it, the process, because it's almost kind of magical how it happens that you're training humans to show up for other humans
Mm-hmm.
really in a day's time. Because then the second day is everyone's going through that. Complete strangers. We don't
Mm-hmm.
have psychology degrees. We're not therapists. We're not solving it. It's showing up and also kind of, maybe helping the person see the answer within themselves, which
Mm-hmm.
we've forgotten all that, I feel like, as a society. And it's that trauma wheel that we're just, and then you get into addiction. Like my body is traumatized. I'm going to drink. I'm going to smoke. I'm going to watch too much TV. I'm going to exercise too much. What it can be a healthy obsession, but it's still
Mm-hmm.
not dealing with stuff. And to be able to be given the gift of hearing somebody tell you what's happening, standing, bearing witness, for lack of a better word, what is
Mm-hmm.
going on in their world. And it could be the big T or the little T. It could be my boss
Mm-hmm.
yelled at me today to my mother's dying, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That is a gift that we have forgotten. And I think
Yeah.
ECPR is putting it kind of back into our ancient and wiser selves, and in a process that is just remarkable. I said it's the best course I've ever taken in my life, and so have all of our trainers who've gone through it. Like,
Yeah.
it's really hard to convey what it can do.
I'm there to be with you, not be over you, walk side by side with. Wait, hold up.
Oh,
It's like a lot of people, and I agree with saying, man, I wish I would have learned this when I was younger.
yeah.
It was that aha moment that you realize I do have something to share to help this person practice. And I remember you even saying in the sharing, you felt like a weight came off of you.
Yeah. For me personally, I don't mind saying what it was that I was the one that cried in our group and really cried. Nobody else even cried. And I was listening to these, it was all women, happened to be all women, because women carry so much of the emotional burden. And again, a lot was kids or grandparents or other people in their lives that needed huge things from them. I'm like, I couldn't carry that. I couldn't carry it. And I'm like, what am I
Mhm.
going to do? And I really had written down 3 or 4 things. And I kept going back to my father's passing. And he was the one family member that I was close to. And it was probably in 2021 when I was writing my book, actually. The way he died was very not pleasant. I mean, I don't want to say death is pleasant, but you can fight it or have bad medical decisions. And a person in his life made what I considered bad medical professions for him. And I thought I had processed it. And those two people are now gone.
Yeah.
And that came out in a big way. And I do. I mean, I was just like devastated, but I didn't think that I was. And that's also kind of weird that you can carry these traumas around and you think, I handled that. And your
Mhm.
body says, nope. And I remember when I was
Mhm.
bawling, you said, and it stuck with me, and I said it to other people, who told you that it's not okay to cry? And I'm like, my family. That's who, because you're vulnerable. And you should not be vulnerable in a toxic family. And also, while you were talking about what the process is, I started thinking about why our group has become so powerful in healing, not powerful, powerful in healing, because it is community, because we're seeing the person. You
Mhm.
have to shut up. That thing you called wait. Why am I talking?
Yeah,
Um,
wait. Why am I talking? Yeah, we did talk about
with
that.
and not fix it and be
Yeah.
present and say, I see you. I see you.
Yes.
I hear you. I understand it. I would feel the same. You're
Yeah.
not imagining it. That really did happen.
Mhm.
And we got you. We can't fix it, but we can
Mhm.
say you're not alone and make them
Mhm.
feel seen and heard. And that in and of itself is healing. It's fun. It's changing the world, literally.
Yes, it does. It does change the world. And, you know, what I love about this is not anything new. Humans have been around for a very long time. When we first started doing this training, it was in person, the virtual world. No one was doing the virtual world then. So we would circle up in a circle. Well, that's very indigenous. It's very
Um,
African. Many different ethnic groups around the world circle up and connect that way, heart to heart. And to me, it was that aha moment. Like, whoa, it's like your heart, it's like all of a sudden you're like, where have you been all my life? And it's like, I've been here hanging out. Why you doing whatever? Right. And it's so beautiful to see because people say, well, who can take this, Kim? I'm like, if you're a human, you can take it.
yeah.
And that's the requirement, just to be able to show up and to be with. And even to our cultural empathy slide, like, we start with that. Like you said, I see you, you matter. Being able to release our judgment, because we can be so judgy in our biases. No one wants to hear when a person is sharing a crisis or a trauma or just having a bad day. I wouldn't have never done that. I just
Yeah.
can't believe you did that. Oh my God. What did you tell that client? Oh, I just can't. Or, oh, I just cannot believe you treated your animal that way. That's horrible. And then what happens to that person? Boom, they throw up a wall.
Hmm. Exactly.
And now you can't support them, you can't support your colleagues. So it's to be able to come in, like you said, and to say, oh, what can I do is listen, allow that person to share. Is there something in me that can resonate with you?
Yes.
And it can be that feeling. That's why it's emotions, that emotion of loss, the emotion of shame, the emotion of fear, the emotion of grief. With we're not going to have the same story, but when I allow myself to go there, I
Hmm.
might grab my heart and say, oh, Annie,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry you're going through that. Tell me more.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the beauty of it. And then also to know that just because you know it, you may not always have the capacity to do it.
Yeah.
Just like the physical CPR.
Yeah.
What if you're not well? What if you're sick? What if you have a flu? No one wants you over them. So it's the same thing to say, I'm just not okay. I'm really doing the best I can to support myself. I cannot support you at this time. But maybe I've got a friend over here that knows.
Mhm.
And I can ask them, hey, can you talk to such and such? Because they really need somebody to listen.
Yeah. That's the me CPR that is lacking in so many professions, particularly in the US,
Mm-hmm.
um, and in service positions, nurses, doctors, teachers, dog trainers, animal care people. It's so easy to just get overwhelmed and do and do and do because you know the dog is suffering and you might be
Mm-hmm.
the last thing that can stop that dog from being killed. But then it's that balance of saying, I can't save them all. I can't
Yeah.
convince every owner. I am not, I don't have endless amount
Mm-hmm.
of ability to show up. And I've had to do that. Like every now, one reason I started the advocacy group for trainers is that so many trainers were coming to me, like in Messenger. Like I couldn't keep up because in my lives, I knew people needed help. And I would say come, especially if you're a younger trainer, because there's also been a gatekeeping between
Mm-hmm.
older trainers, or
Mm-hmm.
women that don't let the new ones in because you're nobody. And so we were trying to crash that gate and say, I'm almost 60, but I will listen to you and come share your thoughts if you're thinking about becoming a trainer, which I used to say don't. Do not do something else, or at least have a fallback. And I still say have a fallback, but now I feel like we're equipping and learning to equip ourselves with more realistic self-care. Um, but every now and then someone will contact me. So we in Facebook, you can have an anonymous post, a way that people can post anonymously. And I post our group rules. We're pretty strict about them. Like if
Mm-hmm.
it's negative, don't name a person, disguise them. If it's positive, please do name them. Just don't, we're not naming names here. This isn't a high school. That's not productive. And we keep saying, tell us how you felt. So
Yeah.
and so who came to your page and yelled at you. Let's not focus on that person who yelled at you. Let's focus on the emotions that brought up in you with you. And this is what I've learned.
Mm-hmm.
But every now and then somebody will contact me, probably once a week, in the group and saying, I don't feel comfortable. And I'm like, there's wisdom in the group. You're just getting it from me only if you're coming to me. And a couple of times I've just had to say, I need you to post it to the group or I will find you someone else to talk to. I can't right now. Like
Mm-hmm.
dealing with a melanoma. I had a melanoma scare. This is probably not the best week for me to be the person that, listening because I'm not
Mm-hmm.
emotionally present. So it's done all of that. ECPR has done all. It's like the final piece that
Yeah.
therapy didn't give me, and I went through lots and lots of therapy, talk therapy,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
putting that with somatic body work, and it's like because it gives whatever your job is, you still have to mostly interact with other humans. There's very few jobs out there that you're not having. I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
going to the store, you're going to interact with humans. So they're
Yeah.
there. And there can either be a source of peace and harmony and deep safety, not every human, but your
Mm-hmm.
community, or they can be scary and toxic and violent,
Yeah.
particularly when we're younger and we don't have control over our environment, like dogs don't have control back to dogs over their environment. And so I think, like you're talking about the ancient wisdom, this brings us back to what we sitting by the fire and talking
Mm-hmm.
about whatever, and moving together as a group. And I kind of see dogs and
Hmm.
humans, we did actually co-evolve 40,000 years ago. And in my mind, I see the perfect, which we can't do anymore. The perfect relationship is the dog and the man walking together somewhere to do
Hmm.
something, to hunt or whatever they're doing, or to get to the water. And now we're leashing them, and there's fences, and dogs are fighting, and we're that way. We don't move. We don't movement is freedom. We don't physically move, and we're not outside connecting to the earth. All of that is taken
Hmm.
away, and the technology, not meeting in person. So I really feel like something like ECPR is honestly the missing piece that can give
Wow.
us back our humanity that we have lost
You know,
individually,
that's
group.
so powerful what you said, because a lot of times when I go speak and I share about emotional CPR, I tell people I see emotional CPR to be the foundation of being a human. It connects us back, and I've seen it. I've been so grateful and blessed to be able to watch how it changes lives just in real time, like you said. Just spending a couple of days, not even spending a couple of days, sometimes a half a day training, a full day training at a conference. Being able to watch that aha moment with some people where it just clicks and they're like, whoa. And every time, I've been doing this for a while, but every time I'm so all surprised, like, wow,
Well,
that that really happened. So let me ask you this, because I know where you want to go. You shared with me about your goal when we've had our one-on-ones, that you wish all trainers get this fabulous training. They're going to watch this video, and and I know you probably just want to speak to them. Of course, I know it applies to all humans, but why, speaking directly to them, why should they take this training?
why shouldn't they? Because, I mean, like I said, it's the missing piece, and we are dealing with, particularly in behavior work, which is the most exhausting versus like a sports dog trainer, agility or whatever or showing dogs. It's not maybe as emotional, but it's still a sentient being at the end of the leash. And they can still have frustrations, and the dog's life still may be in danger, even if you're so-called just a sport trainer, not to
Mm-hmm.
demean them at all. But most of us are behaviorists, and we work in behavior to, dogs biting the kids, the dog bit the mailman, that sort of thing. Resource guarding and showing their teeth and all the things we don't want dogs to do, but they're expressing that they're uncomfortable. So we have a very delicate job where we walk into someone's house, we don't know them, and you have to listen usually to two people, because it's usually adults and husband and wife or whatever, the two people in a relationship, and one dog, or maybe two dogs because they might be fighting. You might probably also have kids. So you have three
Mm-hmm.
or four people, humans, dealing with an animal who says, I'm not safe. And if we can't quickly, very quickly solve it or give them tools to help that animal feel safe so it stops growling or scaring people or hurting itself, whatever it's
Mm-hmm.
doing, separation anxiety is huge. Um, then the dog's life is in danger, and that puts enormous pressure on us because we love them so dearly. So for trainers who are listening to this, and we are going to share this in the Phoenix Advocacy Center group, and we want Kim to come talk to us there. ECPR gives you that tool where you can take it all in and be present while you also have all this training, the technical
Mm-hmm.
training on how to help the dog. This is the emotional missing piece that also can help keep you safe, because it can, the me CPR part of it um, just allows you to truly be present for very heart-wrenching situations for an animal we care so dearly about. One quick example is it just she just passed recently. Our landlord, when we first moved to Utah, we were renting because our place hadn't sold yet. We had three huge dogs at the time, like over 100 pounds. And to rent in Utah is very, like most places, is very hard, but particularly
Yeah.
because we're near a ski area. So good luck renting. And three dogs, we happened to find a lady named Carol who let us live in her house for 2 years. We rented it out. She didn't care about the dogs. It was an old farmhouse right in the middle of town. Loved it. And we may not be where we are now. We bought a house and is still in Utah if she had not let us lease. Always
Wow.
grateful. We had dinner with her several times and her friends. First person we met in Utah. She just passed of cancer, but she called me because we both had the love of dogs last year, and her dog, who I had met, we became friends. Like we weren't like seeing each other all the time, but we would have dinner parties once or twice a year, mutual friends. So I considered her a friend. Her dog started getting reactive and fearful of people coming in to help her because she was very, very sick at the end. And so she wanted help with that. It was ECPR that helped me. Like
Mm.
she had terminal cancer. When she called me, I I misheard her and I thought she said the dog had terminal cancer, which I can deal with because they do get cancer. My own dogs have had cancer.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like emotionally prepared, but I said, your dog has terminal. She goes, no, I have terminal cancer. And I was like, um, because she was always very healthy and vibrant, was a organic farmer, like
Mm-hmm.
health and food was important to her. And so I set up an appointment to try to help her with her dog, knowing that it's it's not a good situation. This is not a normal consult at all. Like you don't say, well, let's do a 6 month plan. You can't. She's
Yeah.
terminal, like months to live. But she was very real and honest. And she's from upstate, like New Hampshire, Vermont. And to me, a lot of East Coast people can just be very direct. And she was always very direct. But I felt okay going into her house, being as realistic and as honest as I can and not sugarcoating it. She wasn't sugarcoating it and showing up for her. And that was
Mm.
after a couple of months after I went to the ECPR course. Like I wasn't terrified a little bit. I'm like, I don't know what to say. And then I realized it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It matters that I show up. I try to give her some tools she can use in the shorthand or help her with her dog after she passes, if she asked me to. Or I think her family took the dog. And I just saw her obituary. I hadn't heard from her in a while. And it's very, very sad. She was my age, actually. That she died of cancer, but we had such a connection. Like
Yeah.
I showed up for her in a way that I did not have the skills to do, and the dog
Wow.
before the course. And I've been doing this for a
Wow.
very long time. And that's the kind of thing we can walk into very easily. And if it's not the person very sick, it's the dog's maybe in its final days if we don't, help it as fast as we can help it and reach the human.
What a beautiful example. And my deepest condolences. Um, oh, that just took my breath away because
Yeah,
it just reminded me of a dear friend that I lost too. And oh, I'm so sorry.
it is. And
Uh,
but to have the gift of being able to show up for her, I didn't. I mean, I would have bumbled my way through it. I still would have gone because I think I'm
yeah.
kind of a brave person, but I didn't have the confidence
Mm,
that I could sit with her
mm.
and be present for her. And that I knew I couldn't solve everything because it had an end date.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
So when you talked about this, and this is such a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing it and sharing it with our listeners. Um, it shows me, number one, that you were able to support her as a friend, and that was the constant. You also got to show up as Annie the professional because she wanted some help and support with her dog. Um, but what's so beautiful about it, so you always had those two pieces.
Yeah.
But then you had this beautiful practice called emotional CPR
Yeah.
to now weave that into everything that you are, to be able to show up and hold space and listen and be there. Like you said, they gave you the confidence that you didn't have before.
Mhm.
What emotional CPR gave you. And I'm sure, that had to be hard. No matter what, having emotional CPR and knowing it or not. Um, but it sounds like this beautiful practice help you to say, hey, this is hard stuff, but I'm here. I see you. I got you. Am I hitting on it right?
Yes, that's exactly right. Like
Um,
I could have gone into avoidance, like
yeah,
I just can't do it because I'm not equipped. I'm not a nurse. I'm not
right,
a psychologist. But I mean, I knew it was going to be hard, but it was harder for her. She's the one that was facing it. Um,
right.
and she did it so. honestly and openly and was talking about it, like she was
Yeah.
so sick because she had been doing chemotherapy or whatever her treatment was. And so I would have noticed if she hadn't have mentioned that she looked just looked like a cancer victim. Um, but she talked about it so freely, and I feel like it's that give and that take where, depending on how I responded, that she mentions it, and we just moved on
Mm,
to the dog.
mm.
You don't, we don't tend to go into the stuff that really is hard very often,
Yeah.
especially with
Because it's
somebody. Yeah.
because it's so hard for us, and I love that you having this practice allowed you gave you permission
Um,
to feel your emotions, which I'm sure that was a lot. So let me ask you this. How were you able to take care of yourself during this time? Because that was something that was new to you too, right?
yeah.
Because if I'm going to go there, I'm taking myself through these emotions, supporting my friend, which is hard. You also learn in doing that, letting go, not fixing,
Yeah.
just being with, supporting. What did it look like to take care of Annie through all of this?
I really think it's because even though I was shocked. You're always shocked when
Mm,
somebody says cancer,
yeah,
or terminal. Like that's hard for your brain to understand, or your heart. And I hadn't seen her probably in a year or two. I did have some dread going, but again, it gave me the confidence to know that I could be there for her, and that was the difference. Like I kind of went down the track a little bit. Oh my God, what do I say to her? How do I make her feel okay? Like you don't make someone feel okay if they have terminal
yeah,
cancer. That's not your job, and you can't. It's
yeah.
she was being very honest and real about it. She wasn't pretending or ignoring it. She just flat out addressed it. So I felt like she called me because she saw something in me that could maybe help her dog or help her in the final months of her life. And that to me was an honor to
Mm,
even be in her house, which we lived in. She was living in the house that we lived in.
wow.
She moved back in. Um, helping a beautiful black German Shepherd, and German Shepherds are one of my favorite breeds.
Mm,
And being able to bring in the dog trainer part, like you said, with the human.
mm,
I mean, that's at our core is the
mm,
humanity. So I didn't feel like I needed any, I told my husband about it. I actually wrote a post for our group about it, about how ECPR helped me, but I took it down. I thought I'll do this after she passes, just because it's a small town, and it's not that she was private about it, but it's like I don't have any. Not talking about her illness, talking about how ECPR helped me show
yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it did. It really did. And so it also kind of helped me understand that, and same with the dog training world, I don't have to take on, it's not my job to fix it for every single dog or to save
Mm.
every single dog. I did that. 400 dogs is crazy that I fostered. That was,
That's a lot.
yeah, that was too much and burnt
That's a
out.
lot.
It took me forever to foster again. I overdid it, which I can do. But that experience with Carol and with all of my clients since then, since I started the advocacy center and healing
Yeah.
myself, you heal other people. It's getting that sense of community that was so sorely lacking in our industry, like toxically missing. Like I said, I don't think I finished that thought earlier, that I went through a grieving process when we first started. First, I would wake up at the advocacy center at 5 in the morning. Oh, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. No, no, no. And then about a month later, I went through a serious grieving process where I was crying a lot. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? And it's because we
Mm,
never had it in the industry. And I myself left for 5 years, and I had my dog trainer friends who were like, where are you? I don't know. But the community was like, she gone. Another one's gone. Like there wasn't anybody to help pick up the pieces or even
yeah.
talk about it. Why are you not training anymore? Because I had a name ID because of the right stuff that I do with books and whatever. So now if somebody, one thing we learned from the Not One More Vet is we'll give gift baskets, $50
Mm,
gift baskets. And because of Amazon, you can kind of do it all over the world. They can be in a different country from the advocacy group. If they're members, and that's one reason we were raising funds, is say their dog died, their spouse died, they're sick, um, they're just having a hard time in the industry. If we
yeah.
know about it and if we have the funds, we're going to send you a gift basket. And that alone, like somebody cares, a group of people cares about me, and they get it
Mm,
because they've walked in my shoes. And
that's so beautiful.
it's been phenomenal. It just really has.
That's so beautiful. Um, and just, thank you for sharing those stories, and what a lovely human that you were able to support. Um, yeah, that's just so beautiful. So I want to ask you just a few more questions as we wrap up. And one is, I know that you've given the call to everybody, hey, emotional CPR. And people, if you love this conversation, you can also find more YouTube videos, Kim's Coffee House Chat on the National Empowerment Center on YouTube. And in addition to that, you can also look us up. You can look up emotional CPR, and check out our website and see the trainings that we have that Annie is talking about. So from time to time, we'll have different trainings, and some of them are open to the public. And also, you can look up the National Empowerment Center that I happen to be the director of training and engagement, and find out all the wonderful things that we do there. Annie, I would love for you to share more about your book. How can people get your book? And I know I've got to get mine, and I need mine autographed. So tell
For
us
sure.
about your book, how
For
much it
sure.
costs, where can we go get it? Tell me more about that.
Yeah. It's this is the cover, and the cover is important because it is on Amazon and international Amazons as well. It did sell out in the first 30 days of publishing, which is crazy. It sold out on all the Amazons but the US one. Crazy. Because it was delayed a year too. And we'd been talking about it forever. And because I have these experts in here that, I mean, the publisher put these photos in and they did an amazing job with it. And a lot of my dogs are in there too. But I have guest experts in every single chapter. Some of the people that are doing the most impressive things for dogs. But it's on Amazon. But the cover is important. I want people who care about books to look up the author's name. My last name is Phenix. It's Phenix, because there's an AI knockoff that has everything but one word missing. And I think it's positive training for aggressive dogs, and a German Shepherd, and a fake name. It's not even a
No.
real person. I complain it was a bestseller because it leached off of it's just garbage. They didn't transcribe
Oh,
the
Annie.
words. Yeah. This is happening to I complained as the author, my publisher complained to Amazon, and they said, we're not gonna take it down. So that's still a bestseller. So don't get that one. I think it's Winslow. It's not a real person. He doesn't exist. It's shit. Sorry. So make sure you get this cover. It is for dog owners, and it's
Hey,
not
you're
just
entitled to that. So,
complete SHIT.
oh
It's for
my gosh.
every kind of behavior issue. Like we walk through, including behavioral euthanasia, which is a very unfortunate reality for some dogs. We can't help them all. But it goes through puppies, adolescents, separation anxiety, every common thing that I have heard from owners for the last 25 years. And it's for owners. It's not complicated because there aren't enough positive reinforcement trainers, particularly in the US. And I would much rather you start on your own. You don't necessarily need a professional. That's a dirty little secret. Sometimes you do. Like I refer out for separation anxiety to Melina De Martini, who's a world expert and trains trainers on separation anxiety. I haven't had her training. So I'm like, don't waste time with me. I could help you because I know
Mhm.
dogs, but I am not an expert in that. And she's in the book, just so many incredible professionals, veterinarians, veterinary behaviorists. So it's also on DogWise. I like books on DogWise, and I think it's called it's an independent bookstore online, and it's all dog training stuff and videos. It's always positive reinforcement, no force involved. And Mungo's in Canada is an independent bookstore, and they will never have the AI knockoff. So you don't
Oh,
have
I
to go
love
to
it.
Amazon, and it's $20, and it's usually on sale. So it's like $16.
So I love that you mentioned Canada. Our Canadian friends and Canadian trainers right now, they're feeling pretty proud. Just
Canada.
we don't do that up here. We don't know what y'all doing here. We don't do that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience with emotional CPR, and the benefits and how it's helped you and helps so many other people that you care about. And thank you for what you do, what you continue to do, and how you're educating us. And that to me is just priceless. And thank you for this lovely book that the bestseller. Come on, y'all. How can you not have that, right? Um, and how that could just make a difference. And thank you for just really being an advocate for our fur babies in that we can have positive training that doesn't hurt or harm any of them.
Yeah.
And educating us to help us too, right? Because I know you said you're not just helping and supporting the fur babies, you're also helping and supporting the folks that have these beautiful dogs in their lives.
Yeah,
So
it's the owners that have the power of change. We're just kind of guiding them towards how to get to the change in a way that makes sense to the dog, really, is what all we're doing. The owners have to do it because they live with the dog. And I want to thank you because, like, I mean, it really, ECPR changed my life. And I
mm,
don't say that easily. And dog trainers take courses all day, every day because we're addicted to learning, and the good dog trainers do. And there just hasn't ever been a course like this. I don't even like the word course because it doesn't feel like
mm,
a course.
yeah,
It's a new way of, well, it's a new old way of being human. It
yeah,
really gives back humanity, and it's so sorely needed.
it
Like,
is.
and that I wish, like everyone says who goes through it, I wish I knew this 20 years ago or
Yeah,
forever. I just wish they
yeah.
taught it in schools.
Absolutely. And I tell people it's become a practice for me because it is one of those that I use it at home. I use it with my loved ones. I'm on a few boards. I use it in board meetings. I fly and go do this training all over the place. And, my Uber drivers take me to the airport, and I've supported Uber drivers, people in the grocery store, in going to home improvement. Not gonna give any names for no push. um, and supporting people just everyday folks wherever there's a human. This beautiful practice goes wherever you are
Yeah.
and however you do it. And most importantly, I tell people um, you can't do this practice unless you're taking care of self. So here's my last question to you, my friend. I might cheat a little bit. What do you do now to take care of self? What does me CPR, also called self care, what does that look like for you,
Yeah.
Mary?
It's enabled me to extend that enormous empathy that I learned. I think I always had it for people, but the world damages you, particularly if
Mm,
you love animals and you see animals being damaged by humans, then you put up that wall. And so ECPR and all of my growth in the last several years um, has enabled me to put down the wall, but in safe company. Like I'm very good at
mm,
figuring out who's safe and who's not. And I don't bother if they're not safe for me, whatever it is. Block. I'm the queen of block, they say on Facebook.
mm,
Like I'm not here to entertain people who are not safe for me. Um, and extending that empathy to myself that, like I did recently had a melanoma discovered on my neck that was, thank God, removed. And I got on the margins and it's clear and all that. And I got lucky. I got very lucky that it
yeah.
was found. But I said, I'm not doing anything for 2 weeks. Until then, I became too focused on it, and I'm like, I need to go back to work. But I gave myself that time. Like, I cannot emotionally be there for other people right now.
Mm,
I didn't know it was going to be 2 weeks. Might have been a month, might have been 6 months. I took time off to sit around and watch movies. And I would, even had to cancel myself. Don't make that call. Don't do that. We had scheduled actually earlier. And I'm like, just clear your schedule. Especially Zoom, because Zoom told me I did like more than 100 live Zooms last year. That's too many Zooms in one year. So I canceled a lot of my like public Zooms, just to give myself time to breathe and to accept what had just happened to me. Because it was like Wednesday, she did a biopsy. The next Wednesday, I was in her office and she was removing it. And like, you don't have time to really
Yeah.
take all that and the threat of to what could happen if it has spread, which is a small possibility. I mean, that makes you fine tune what's important to you.
Mm,
I remember saying to my husband, but I want to sit on the back deck in the summer because that's what I do with my dogs as I sit out there and watch the sunset. It's the
right.
little things that you would miss and you have to think about. That could be taken away. That could go. I could be too sick soon. So I needed that time and I took it, and of course everyone understood, you know.
Mm,
And now I feel, I'm as okay as anybody can be with it because I let myself have that time to
mm.
come to terms with it. So it's
It's so beautiful.
given me that.
Yeah, because what you did for yourself, sometimes we forget we can do those things. I know that's what me CPR taught me as well. Um, because now, you will continue to do that again for yourself. And again, it's like we're so givers. We're always giving, giving,
Yeah.
giving, but we forget I can't continue to do what I love unless I'm taking care of self
Yeah.
first.
It's so crucial for dog trainers,
Yeah.
anyone working
Well,
with animals or children.
absolutely. Okay, this is for real my last
Okay.
question. One word to describe what emotional CPR, that whole experience was for you. No, that's tough.
I know.
All right, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to
Okay.
cheat. I'm going to cheat. I'm not going to just give you one word. I'm going to give you two. And, I did this during your training too. And if it's not one or two words, because I know my friends, you might need a sentence.
Whole sentence.
See, I opened it up a little bit more. You see how I opened it up a little
I
bit more for you?
appreciate that. I appreciate that, considering I can get going and we're already well over an hour. So keep it within an hour into.
Somebody's laughing right now.
Oh, the thing, two words do come to mind, and one is hyphenated, so maybe it's three. Um, it's an expanding. It expands your ability to be human in all the good ways and life changing. And that sounds so. That's the hyphenated one. That
That's why I
sounds
gave you a
just
sentence.
yeah, thank you. Life changing sounds like, well, sure it is. The movie I saw yesterday was life changing. Was it? Well, this was for me, and like I said, it's the missing piece that I didn't know how badly I needed, and it's we all need it, and it isn't rocket science. It's human to human in a organized way. In a way, I don't even want to say organized. I don't even like the word course. Like I said, it's magic. It feels like magic, and now we sound like
Mm.
we're selling a religion here, but we're not. It's
Once people take it, they're like, I see what you're saying now.
yeah. It's hard to explain it, and you have to go through it. And if I can give it to every single dog trainer, even the mean ones, the mean girls, and the ones shocking dogs, they need it the most. Actually, we all need it. Whatever your point of view is, it's the grace that we have inside of us that we have forgotten, and everything in our society is squishing it.
Yeah.
Squishing it, being kind to one another. So
Yeah.
remarkable. That's another word, and then I'll quit.
I love it. I love you, Annie. Thank
Love you
you
too.
for joining us and just hanging out at Kim's Coffee House Chat. I appreciate you. This is just so beautiful, and you're just an amazing human. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you had the opportunity to walk away with some good stuff. And again, just check out our website, emotionalcpr.org, and you can check out our trainings. And again, feel free to check out the National Empowerment Center, who's responsible for bringing you emotional CPR and so much more. And don't forget to go out and get Annie's book. It's on Amazon and other places that you can rewind and go back and check to see what not to do. Don't buy that fake one, right? get the one that comes from her, and allow this beautiful book to be a part of your home. If you have a fur baby, it's a must. It's a must. Alrighty, y'all. I'll see y'all later. Thank you so
Thank you,
much. I'll
Kim.
see you next time on
Thank
Kim's
you.
Coffee House Chat.